Hey guys, here's a quick screencast about interactive notebooks. You are going to be expected to take notes in your social studies class, whether it is on your textbook readings or Newsela articles, or even some of your video play posits. You will need to keep a dedicated notebook 100% to your social studies class. So here's someone's American history notebook. I do have you guys keep interactive notebooks, which you can think of them as a diary of your learning. It's not just taking the notes on the content, but it's you interacting with your notes. So think of them as a diary of your learning. Your portfolio of notes, that's all in one convenient spot. And most importantly on this slide, it is worth 10% of your grade is keeping your notes. The main thing to keep in mind when doing interactive notebooks is you save the right side of your notebook. If you were to open your notebook, lay it out flat. Okay. Pull out the sample here. Open up your notebook, lay it out flat. Okay. If you look down at it and look at the right side of your notebook, okay, that's the place where I want you to take your notes. Okay, so this is where you have your teacher and class information, notes from your textbook and the content. And it really doesn't matter what style of notes that you take. Maybe you've heard of the Cornell method or the outline method or mind mapping. Doesn't matter to me, but all your notes from the content go on that right side of the page. Then on the left side of your page, this is where a spot for student interactions. This is the spot where after you take your notes, you go back and you write some questions, or you reflect a little bit on the main topics, key terms that you learned, or you draw some pictures or add some graphs or tables, reflecting on what the right side of your notebook was discussing. Going back to the right side only has the information given. We call them inputs from your class. The right side contains all the testable material. So every page, you have your title or unit or section pages, and the learning targets or objectives from the section. Date's not as important to me, just as long as you clearly label the sections that you're on. So some other examples of right side inputs: teacher notes, article readings, textbooks, vocab words, study guides, and learning targets. Here's this example of someone's Cornell notes for a science class, right? So that's the right side. Left side, again, you record your thinkings, reflections, questions, thoughts, impressions, connections, and wonderings. You apply the skills learned in the class. So I always tell students, the left side is student created. Students can use graphs, charts, Venn diagrams, research from the internet to demonstrate their learning, making those connections between the old and the new learning. Here's an example of the food web in a science class. So they, created an actual picture to demonstrate the food chain in that science class. Here's just a big list of left side, possible left sides. I see a lot of students do cartoons and pictographs, Venn diagrams, what's similar, what's different, flow charts, graphic organizers, writing prompts, other creative ways for processing that information. Here's an example of a left side with Federalists versus Anti-Federalists. This student actually printed out the picture, and instead of doing a Venn diagram, had some thinking ideas of Anti-Federalist philosophy in the Constitution and Federalist philosophy there. Neat example of some picto words, right? So taking key terms and turning them into pictures. Some of my favorite are the graphic organizers that can go into your left side of your notebook. Just wanted to show you a real example, and if you want to come find me at office hours and flip through this, you're more than welcome to. But this was an American history student from a couple years ago. Okay. I don't know if this is backwards, but you can see on their right side, they have their notes over here, okay, Cornell notes. And then on their left side, they did a quick little compare Venn diagram about the different political parties during that time. So that reflects what they wrote on their, or took notes on their right side. Now for tracking this, we'll set this up probably the second week. I do a stamp sheet, which shows which lesson we took notes on. And when I come around and do a notebook check, we'll just stamp if you've taken the right side notes on that. And then there's also a stamp for doing the left side outputs as well. So that's it for interactive notebooks. If you ever want to go over the different strategies for taking notes or methods, such as Cornell method or the outline method, feel free to come during office hours. I'm happy to model some of that. But just remember to show me what you are learning. You got to take those notes. And it's you learn a lot more by putting pen to paper and putting your thinking down on your writing.